Hello everyone, my name is Tiana and this is an appropriately unhinged explanation about the TXT lore. Now, if you're someone like me, I fell in love with TXT at the Sweet Mirage tour. My friends were the ones to get me a ticket and was like, Tiana, you should go see this. And I had no idea who TXT was. And now I'm a deep MOA stan who has seen the Act Promise tour this year, got to see the last day, and it was amazing. And it also validated a lot for me in terms of lore and also put me down a different path. Personally, what got me into TXT the most was one, the music, because the music's amazing. It's a banger. I might be singing along some things and like getting my thoughts together with everything that's going on. But what also got to me was when my friends came back after the Act Suite tour and we're like, let's look at the music videos. And I was like, ooh, there's a story. I need to know the story. And look at what knowing the story does. This is only like the beginning. I made them into parts. I think there's 3, possibly 4. We're gonna get through it together. But I just wanted to make this video so that I could get off my chest, because I've been bugging so many people around me about this, and now I have a clear, concise version of what's going on. So if you think that this is interesting, feel free to stick along or skip along wherever you want. This video, I will say, there will be more videos, girls. I know. This video, though, will be just describing the story based off of what I think is going on, and will not be mentioning any of the song tie-ins. That will be a separate video because, believe it or not, I had enough time this weekend to not only make this video and make these cards, which I hope you appreciate my art. I did the best I can. You can't really see it too much, but you could see it. You could see it. All in Sharpie, okay? I will be using the Sharpie as a pointer as well to help keep and guide me, but this is going to be very unhinged. And also, if you hear the planes in the back, no you didn't, because apparently planes don't like me today and they decided to do right now for this whole hour, and I've been recording and unrecording to fly. So if you hear planes, they don't exist. Just like the second cat, but we'll get to that joke in a second. If you would like to see me talk more about this, you don't have a choice. If you click on more videos after this, that's on you. But this is the first installment of many. The next one will probably be me listing all of the songs in order on what I think is the chronological order of the story based off of the story that I've created and explaining why. And then after that, I don't know, maybe I'll go into the Japanese lore, maybe I'll read the webtoon Star Seekers. You probably should. I hear it's really good. So yeah, just putting that out there. Other things to note, I will be breaking these up in parts as I said, and I will try to get back into some questions that you may have or some things that I left as plot holes that I was going to touch back again. And throughout this whole Unhinged, you're going to hear me say, I'm going to get back to that. I promise to try to get back to it, but if I don't, girl, this thing is going to be long, okay? Just give me some slack. But with that being said, I hope that you enjoyed this, and whoever is listening, thank you so much for listening, because again, I just need to get this off my chest, regardless on who's listening or not. So thank you for sticking around. Okay, so first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the characters to the best of my ability right now, and I will get more in depth when the story takes more off throughout this whole video. So first and foremost, and just noting if it looks like I'm looking down, like down there, like right now, what I'm doing right now, I have a notebook that I wrote down everything that I'm about to say, and this is my first time making a script for something, so again, applaud, thank you, I appreciate it. But I wrote down all my thoughts, and I'm gonna try to stick with the book, but there may be some things that I addressed that I did not address in the book that I'm gonna take a side tangent on and try to get back to. So just also keep that in mind. Cool beans. All right, so first up is Yeonjun. And if you're wondering where I got these cards from, this is from the Star Seekers storybook. And I could have very well have used that pop-up book to explain what I'm doing instead of doing these art and this doodles, but I'm extra. And also, it's not that I don't care if these get messed up. I have 3 versions of this, so I have 3 versions of these cards. So if I miss some or if I mess some up, it is okay, but that's what I got this washi tape for, so hopefully it should be fine. Anyways, Yeonjun. Yeonjun's power is Crown, and as you can see, I'm trying to match him. Crown doesn't sound like a power until you realize that it's a very important power, and Yeonjun is a very important character. I'm telling you, the planes just wanted to be out today. They did not want to hear me explain this, but too bad. Yeonjun had to edit a little bit because the planes were really getting loud. But anyway, Yeonjun's power of crown does a lot. And this is one of those powers that I'll explain more when we get later into the story. But just know for now that this is one of the big things for him. And he really doesn't like it, but he's trying to get used to it. It's brought it out of nowhere for him when he got a little bit older. And the power that he does not know right now, that I'm going to spoil a little bit, but will again be explained more later on, is that he has the power to change his dream island or any dream island that he is currently on. That would make more sense later, and I know you're scratching your head like, what do you mean Dream Island? And if you could read this, surprise if you can. It says Dream Island. I will get to there shortly. Just trying to get through the characters, trying to keep this some sort of organized. So that is Yeonjun, and I will place him right here. I'm sort of going to scatter them for now because I'm going to change them. I'm going to move them as needed to help theme and story and plot. Again, hire me. Hybe, T-Universe, TXT, if you're watching this, I doubt it. You're welcome. And I should be hired. But also y'all did that. Y'all did this. And the fact that I'm even talking about this, amazing. Storytellers on point. Anyways, that is Yeonjun. Next is Subin. Okay? This is Subin. I love these cards. 10 out of 10 artwork. Anyway, Subin's main thing is his super hearing. I don't know if you could tell, he has the elf ears. I know super hearing doesn't sound very useful. And one thing about this story in terms of the song main Korean lore is that at first, when I was delving into this and before some of the albums that came out, I was like, Subin shouldn't be as powerful as he is and shouldn't be like heading the plot that he's doing, but I promise you it's all gonna make sense. And they actually did a really good job balancing out all of the characters' powers and abilities, but also the agency and how they affect the story. And I know that when I explain certain powers, again, I know I just want you to know, like, they did an amazing job. And I apologize in the beginning for not giving as many characters as much credit with their powers and what they do. Because it will be very important later on, and each individual has their own thing that is super duper important. So just know that. Subin's is super hearing. He can hear very far. That's essentially it. Yeah, he could just hear really, really well, and that becomes important later. But just know that's all he has. Cool. So I'm gonna put you here for now. You're gonna move, but I'm gonna put you there for now and hope that you stay there. Okay. Next is Beomgyu. Okay, Beomgyu, his thing is he's a porcupine boy. I know you can't see in this card because again this is from Starseekers and it takes a different story path than what I'm talking about now, but just know that he has the ability to hurt people in the dream world, which is unique because in the dream world you can't really get physically hurt, but he has the ability to do so. But he also has the ability to heal you. So if for some odd reason you get harmed or injured in the dream world, he also has the ability to heal you. So he's a double-edged sword. It becomes really important as well later throughout the story. He's my porcupine boy, he's my half and half, and he's going up on the wall. You're gonna go here. Now, I know what you're thinking. Tiana, if you have islands for each one of these guys, why don't you just place them where they are? I'm scared that if I put them on the paper, it's going to rip. And I've spent way too much time, and by time, I mean I spent way too much energy doing these cute little doodles, and I don't want to do them again. Anyways, next is Taehyun. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but to prevent me from pronouncing it wrong, I'm either going to be saying Tay or Terry. So this is Tay right here. This is our baby boy Terry. And his power is super sight. Now, not only can he see far, but he also has the ability to see past, present, and future, but also into the other members' dream islands. Can he control it? That is up for debate. Sometimes he can, sometimes he cannot. It looks like whenever it's about like past, present, and future, he can't control it. But when it comes into trying to take a sneak peek into the other members' dream islands, he could do that on a whim. So it's sort of on and off. Also note, with his ability of seeing into the future, past, or present, it doesn't come as like, oh, this is a cinematic universe of what's going to happen in the future. It comes in like clues and visions that he has to decipher. So sometimes it's a little bit hard for him to get the uptake before something happens, but just know that is him. Okay? Oh, the planes do not want to let me live today. But I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going through it. It's okay. All right, that is them. Now, ironically, the plane is also helping with this. We are going to be doing Hyun Kai. Okay, I am back. Hopefully, no more planes, but if so, again, I'll probably cut it and bear with me. All right, Wingy Boy. This is Hyun Kai. Hyun Kai's big thing is that he has wings. Now, at this point, you may be thinking, Tiana, what does wings mean and what does crown mean? You only explained a little bit of what crown means, only a little bit of what wings mean. Here's my thing. I don't know why they chose for these two specifically to have a little bit of like a little flair, a little pizzazz when it comes to explaining these things. But just know that Hyun Kai's wings not only go burr, but they could also fly to any dream island that he chooses without the need of a train station. Again, I'll get to what all that means. So that's his big power. Another thing to note is that he could also take someone with him based off of what I believe from the story, what I've seen in the story, he can only take one person at a time, which explains a lot of things in the future when you have a couple of questions like, oh, well, if he has wings, why couldn't he just do that with the rest of the group and fly them away? We'll get there soon. Also, note that I say flying. Flying and falling are two different things. So if I say flying, know that that means that they are going from island to island of their own free will. Falling is not flying. Falling is not flying. Just keep that in the back of your head, okay? And I am using this a little bit of time before I put him up on the wall to say, I apologize, Hyun Kai. I know that none of the members are probably going to watch this, and if they do, that would be crazy. But just to have it on air, I truly apologize, because in the beginning when I was theory crafting and before a couple of albums came out for this year, I was like, Hyun Kai's ability is really pointless. I don't understand. But again, like I said at the beginning of this video, all of these members, no matter how stupid their powers may seem, and by stupid, I don't mean stupid in a bad way, but just, that doesn't make any sense, Tiana, because you said this a couple of minutes ago, okay? No matter how crazy we get, okay, just know it is important and they all matter. So that is Winky Boy's, Hyun Kai's big thing, is that he has wings and that he could traverse to any island that he so chooses in this dream world. He will go up on the wall. Now, alrighty. Now, with that being said, I am now going to start explaining what I mean by dream world and dream islands. So let's start this off with some lore breaking stuff. So there will be a section in part 2. We're still in interlude / pre starting the story so that you understand the world building before I get into part 1, which will be what this wall is right now. But just know that all of these members here, all of the boys are something called dreamers. Dreamers are able to live in the reality world, and then when they go to sleep, they are able to play around in the dream world, have their own dream island, and access powers and all of that fun nature in their dream world. But the cool thing about dreamers is that they are not, they're able to experience both, right? They're able to experience the daytime of the real world where real things happen, i.e. where I'm at right now, but they're also able to have a lot of fun in their dream world as well and make anything possible. And later on they will get magic, which we will also talk about soon. But just know that is what they are. Now, when I say reality or real world, I mean the real world. I mean what we are currently in, living and breathing. But when I say dream world, I mean the dreamscape. Okay, I dropped my Sharpie. I mean the dreamscape, okay? I mean, we are in slumber time, okay? Sandman has come and visited us. We are snoring away, okay? We are gone. We are knocked out, KO'd, okay? And again, the fun thing about dreamers is that they are able to wake up from their dream, go back to reality, back and forth, back and forth. They have the duality, right? So when I say dream world, I mean the world itself. But if I say dream island, imagine these floating little islands in the dream world. And this island could be anything that the boys sort of concoct up based off of their personalities. But remember again, Crown Boy, he's able to change landscapes however he wants, okay? That's also another thing that Crowny Boy can do. So aside from just all of them having their own dream islands, okay, Crown Boy could change any landscape that he is on as well. So say Crown Boy is at Kai's Island, he could change Kai's Island to whatever he so desires. But again, he doesn't know this, so we're just gonna act like he doesn't have this power. Anyways, in this Dream Island, Dream Worldscape, okay, there is magic within that they get. And also I'm going to mention now, and I will explain what the promise is in part 1, but just know that when I say star or promise, I am using them both interchangeably. This is the thing that gives them their powers. Now, when I say powers / magic, I mean the things that I just spent like 5 minutes explaining to you earlier. But just know, even though the star is the one that bestowed them their powers, they still have the ability to go back to their own dream islands as they so wish, and they do not need the star's power to do so, if that makes sense. So like before the star gave them power, they were still chilling in their own dream islands and able to traverse using the train. Again, I know I keep mentioning this damn train. You're gonna hear it later on, okay? So yeah, they're able to access it without the star's power, but then when the star comes in and grants them powers, they have extra stuff that they could now do in their dream world. And again, whatever happens in the dream world, okay, stays in dream world. Okay, this is like Fight Club. Whatever happens here stays here, okay? So they cannot use their power in the real world, which is going to be very important if you decide to watch my song video, which again, I'll probably explain a little bit later. Well, not later, but like in that video, I'll explain what I mean. But just know that Crown Boy can't change the real world in real time. Wingy Boy cannot fly in real world. And that is a very important distinction to note as well. And with that being said, I think we are able to now go into part 1. So without further ado, let's get to part 1. Okay, welcome back. Mainly for me, back for you is just a jump cut to part 1 of the story, or the first arc of the boys and their perilous journey as they go through life and growing up as into adults, which is actually a really nice coming of age story when you think about it. But let's not think about it right now because we haven't reached that part yet. Okay, so we start off with these 5 boys. Okay, they're babies. They're little kids, okay? They're running around having a great time in their dream world. And somehow, we will get into somehow later, but just know somehow, one way or another, all 5 boys end up here, Magic Island. Now, when I say Magic Island, keep that in your mind. Magic Island is very important, okay? When I say Magic Island, it means something. When I say Magic Island, it means something, okay? So they're at Magic Island, all right? They decide to have a grand old time having a party. This is what it is, okay? This is a depiction. Enjoy it. Again, Star Seekers, you should get the book. And it's usually depicted as well with a Ferris wheel. It's giving very much so carnival vibes. They're having a great time. They all have masks on their faces. And when they get older, those masks represent the powers that they end up getting, that the star gives them. So also keep that in mind, but they're kiddos, okay? They're having a great time. They're having fun, okay? They don't know what each other looks like because they have masks on. But since they're having so much fun, they all 5 decide to meet up at a point and go, hey, I want to make a promise to each and every single one of you that we'll come back tomorrow, because remember, they're going to wake up, be in reality. But tomorrow when we go to sleep, let's meet back up here and have fun forever together, woo, woo, woo. And tomorrow together, you get what that means, okay? So, as they're making this promise, they promise to the star. The star is the promise is star. They are both interchangeable at this point. When they do so, the star not only keeps what they said as a promise, but they make sure that they are able to access the Magic Island for however long they want in their dream time, but also bestows them powers, again, based off of whatever they do. Some powers end up coming up later when they're older, such as Crown Boy and such as Wingy Boy, but some are like some are immediately bestowed, such as sightseeing and hearing, and actually, Wingy Boy actually gets his pretty instantly as well, but again, we'll get there soon. So yeah, they all have fun, they're all doing great, until eventually they decide we're getting older, and as you get older, they probably think, hey, our dreams aren't really real, and also we don't know who these people are because we don't see them in real life. So they decide to leave all but one, and I will get into who is that one later. It'll be a fun mystery reveal. See if you could guess which one of these boys actually remember the promise, which is like the biggest thing right now, right? So anyway, they forget their promise to meet up here, aside from one. One boy is left alone. Again, I'll reveal who it is later. And now this star is not a promise star anymore, okay? Let's take that away. All right, now we have the star and it's napping, okay? It's a nap of a star, and that makes sense with the song. If you know the song lore, the girlies that get it, the girlies that don't. Okay, so star is napping. Now, just because the star is napping does not mean that the powers aren't there. And just because the star is napping does not mean that sometimes it sends the boys messages and codes and warnings on how to wake up the star, which is remembering the promise, and there's other steps that come along with it too. Okay, so just know that as well. So now you go up here. All right, star is napping. Okay, it is asleep. All right. So the boys, they get older. All right. And at this point, boy who's left is feeling pretty sad. But the rest of the boys, they just sort of go back to their own dream islands. They all individually just go back to their dream islands. So I'll just move everyone back to where they are. Honestly, they could just stay where they're at this point. It doesn't matter because I already have their things. Anyways, they go back to their dream worlds respectively, and they get older, right? So that is sort of the prerequisite to the star napping. And this is the first of many times the star is going to wake up and go back to sleep. At this point, get an alarm clock. Okay, now that the boys are growing older and the star is asleep, it is napping, it is hongchu, having a grand old time in the dream world sleeping. Don't think about it too much. Now that is happening, the boys are in their own respective dream worlds, as I said, so they're all just vibing out. Imagine that I moved these cards over there. I honestly do not want to rip my artwork. So just imagine that they're there, okay? And we can now all pretend that we're in a dream world and that is there. Anyways, now that has happened, aside from, again, main boy who was abandoned at Magic Island, again, trying to figure out who it is based off of how I'm talking about this, we are now following Yeonjun, Cranny Boy. He's finally growing his crowns, and they're finally getting into puberty, which is a symbolization of crown. The crown is a symbol of puberty, of them getting older and getting their own quirks, but he's actually gaining his crown, which is another big thing to note. Even though the star is napping, that does not mean that they lose their powers. Now, if the star is gone, that means that their powers do not exist. But since it's still napping, they still have their magic, albeit probably not at the strength that it would be if they was up, but you honestly don't even notice in the story. So just keep that in mind as well. So, Yeonjun in the real world, he's not popular. He's not the it boy, which doesn't make sense to me because, I mean, have you seen him? But either he's getting bullied or he's not making enough friends and his quirk isn't really doing what it is. And so he's like, you know what? F that. I don't want to be in the real world right now. And when I say this, I'm going to get into it a little bit later, sooner rather than later. But when he says he doesn't want to be in the real world anymore, I don't think that means that he doesn't want to exist in the real world. I think that he just needed a break. He needed a vacation, and I get that. Sometimes I wish I could take a vacation and just live in my dreams, but I'm not a dreamer, so that's not how that works. So he hatches a plan to go to his dream world, okay? And at his dream world, he's going to break the rules. Now, each island has their own set of rules, but the dream world itself also has a set of rules that you have to obey. One of the rules, and again, I'll get into more of the rules in part 2, but one of the rules, the plane has been doing this for 2 hours. This is ridiculous. Out of all days, it usually doesn't do this, guys. Anywho's, he decides to break a rule, which would allow him to stay in the dream world. At least that's what he thinks, and gives himself the break that he wants and needs. Now there are many rules to this dream world that dreamers have to follow. But in this landscape, I'm just going to tell you the one that he breaks. And when we get to part 2, we'll talk about more rule breaking and rules in the dream world. We'll get to that soon. But just note that he decides to break the one rule, which is don't bring any outside items into your island. And somehow he does that, whether it be going into another dream island. Imagine there's more floating islands around. So he went there and went back to his dream island and got a match and lit a fire, or somehow, was able to bring a matchbox from reality and then set his world on fire. That doesn't make much sense. So I'm gonna go with my theory that he ended up going to another dream island. Just imagine like one floating around here, stole a matchbox from that island and then brought it back to his island, and decided to set a fire in a campfire. And he was really gonna camp it out. He had his little wood sack and everything. This is Napa Star vibes. I know I said I wasn't gonna mention socks, but I'm gonna mention them anyway because who's gonna stop me? Me. So yeah, he decides to do that, and oh boy, that was one of the wrongest things that he could have done, and that starts a whole chain reaction into this whole story, because he ends up not only setting a fire into his island world, anyways, he sets a fire to his world, and by doing so, not only does he ruin his world, but he also unleashes. Okay, I'm gonna assume that it's done now. So not only does he set a fire to his dream world so that way he could break a rule and basically stay him in his dream world, but he unleashes, ooh, I can't wait to show you guys this. Okay, give me 1 second. Not only does he set a fire to his dream world, but he actually unleashes the cat. Now, this cat, if you are a part of MOA TXT lore, if you have done other deep dives, and if you have looked at other videos aside from mine, which I would highly recommend, I can't give you any recommendations now because I haven't looked at a video in a while, but feel free to look at other people's videos and compare them to mine. I'm not saying who's right and who's wrong. I'm just saying it's nice that we have our own theories. He unleashes the cat. Okay, he unleashes the cat. Meow. Yeah, I'll put you on top of here for now. Okay, I don't mind putting paper on top of paper like that. So he unleashes the cat. Okay, and he's just like, Yeonjun is giving real panic vibes, and the background of the fire makes more sense to you now because he set his own world on fire on accident. But he's just like, this is not good. This is not it, bestie. What do? I just thought that I was gonna break a cute little rule, get to stay here for a little bit, and like dream world jail and then go back to reality. But the cat appears and he's like, yeah, no, that's not how that works, bestie. You set fire to your world, so either you stay here and you basically die in real life and you die in the dream world, or I could help you. I could help you escape this island and you could chill at my island if you wanted to. It's just that you won't be able to return back to your real self. So Yeonjun is faced with the option at this point whether to die in real life or die in the dream world or die in real life. He's dying either way, and that's pretty overwhelming for our crony boy, and honestly I understand that. So instead of like answering the cat and making the deal, he rightfully runs away trying to figure out if there's like another option for him, right? So he runs. Even though he ran, he still unleashes the cat, and the cat just sort of lurks. So I'm gonna put her here. You know what? No, you should stay with Yeonjun. Girlies will understand later what that means when it stays with Yeonjun. Yeah, so the cat is here now and following Yeonjun as his world is burning. And believe it or not, I am taking this away. Oh no. There we go, because now Yeonjun's world is dead. All right, so he burns down his own world, and as he's escaping, he's able to get out by the help of ding, 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 Wiggy Boy. Remember when I said that he could rescue people? This leads into the next discovery. If anybody guessed that Hyun Kai was the one that was abandoned and remember the promise, you are right. You should write that in the comments. So, Hyun Kai, rewind back to when they were kids. Hyun Kai actually did not forget the promise. He was the only one that remembers. And I think the reason why he remembers is because he has the ability to check in on everybody else's dream world, but everybody else can't do that unless they take the train. And bestie, they already take the train here. Do you want to take a train someplace else that's just crusty and dusty? So, he remembers the promise and also knows what everybody looks like. So he's just really abandoned. He's giving sad boy vibes. But luckily he's been checking in on everybody throughout like his dreams. And he sees Yeonjun's world on fire and he flies in and saves him, picks him up, and brings him back to Dream World. But now Yeonjun does not have a Dream World anymore. So I'm gonna move him down here. Yeah, you guys can still see. Yeah, I'm gonna move him down here just so that you know from now on, if I'm talking about Yeonjun or anything dealing with islands, he doesn't have one anymore. It's just gone. It is destroyed. It is on fire. He's not getting it back, nor does he make the attempt to get it back. And we'll address what that means later. So Hyun and Kai flies him over here too. You know what? You can fly. Wee, wee. Here you go. Yeah, so Hyun and Kai flies him over to Magic Island, and he was like, hey, I know it might be a little bit creepy, but I saw that your world was burning, and I thought that I should save you. Let's just chill out here in Magic Island and have fun, and let's be friends. And the cat is still, like, high-key lurking since Yeonjun set him free by breaking the rules. But also another fun thing to note, and it will get in more detail on what I mean in part 3, I know, crazy, is that he doesn't know this either. Yeonjun is just our oblivious baby boy. And honestly, I love that for him. He doesn't realize that he actually has control over this cat. And in the music video for Nap of a Star, I know I said I was going to mention it, but I think that it's just really good to notice now and talk about now. In Nap of a Star, he gets rid of one of his horns. I think that symbolized him giving the power to the cat. Even though he technically escaped using Hyun and Kai's power, he still broke the rules, and he still, in so breaking the rules, unleashed the cat and gave away some of his authority and power to the cat, which is going to be very conflicting and again will make more sense in part 3. But just know, cat over here, he's just looking around. He's just chilling. Yeonjun thinks that he's gone, and Hyun and Kai probably thinks that he's gone too, but he's just around, just in the background, you know, just your everyday lurking cat in the dream world. So yeah, these two start hanging out, and in doing so, these two start hanging out. Hyun and Kai and Yeonjun are able to convince these 3 boys over here that they should hang out back at Magic Island 2 in Dream World. And by doing so, the Nap of Star is not napping anymore. It is up, it is awake, it is alive, it is here, and it might be queer, okay? I know how to put things on. Yeah, so the star is back in full force, and the world is back and restored, and they are back to fulfilling their promise, which is meeting up here and spending time all day, every day, or not all day, every day, but spending time here in Dreamland when they go to sleep, in Magic Island, where they go to sleep. And that, in totality, is part 1. The other boys get to keep their islands, and Hyun and Kai's island is really interesting because it's not necessarily an island. It's sort of giving spacey vibes if you look at Napa Star, which I would recommend looking at all the music videos. But it's still an island. It still exists. That's still a place that he could go. Yeonjun has no place to go but Magic Island, which will make a lot more sense in the decisions that are made in part 2. But yeah, now to address some questions that you probably had, and some questions that I personally had while writing this down. 1, how am I so certain that Hyun and Kai remembers the promise and no one else does? Because if you watch Napa Star, and again, I'm really trying not to mention the music videos because I want that to be a separate video, but I think that is vital to solidify my point here and why this makes sense. In Napa Star, it is undisputed that Hyun and Kai is the one that saves Yeonjun from his burning world. How would Hyun and Kai know to save Yeonjun? How would he know to check up on his world if all of them forgot their promise and all of them forgot who they were? Yeah, okay. Also, the fact that he not only saves him, but brings him to Magic Island, and the way that I know that it's Magic Island in that video is because they both get there, and then the other 3 get there, and the star wakes up, and they're in their star pose, which is also very important. So it has to be Magic Island, because where else is he gonna go? Yeonjun can't go to Kai's Dream Island, because we saw what his Dream Island looks like, and it's space, and where they aren't space. So it had to be the island, Okay, which also gives us a sneak peek into what the Magic Island looks like when the star is snapping, because it didn't look like carnivals and rainbows, it looked like a dark void. Which again makes you feel even more sad that Hunakai was just abandoned there, and also makes more sense on why he's motivated to check in on all of the boys, to see if maybe they'll start remembering or just to see them happy. So there's that. Now, number 2 to address. If Tay's big thing is that he could see the future and present and past, why wasn't he the one to remember everything? Remember, even though his thing is that he could see really far and that he could see visions, the visions are very sporadic. And even though he has the opportunity to see into the other guy's dream worlds, I don't think he really recognizes that power until part 2 when he's older and when he needs to. So he probably forgot and probably got fragments about what was happening here, but again, do not really make the correlation and causation. Number 3, if Huninkai, I know a lot of these are Huninkai centric, but I also just dropped a like major bomb lore wise. If Huninkai remembered the promise and no one else did, why didn't he reach out to them in the real world? Because plot twist for part 2, I'm going to spoil it here in part 1 and also in the recap and answering and addressing problems and questions, is they all actually go to the same high school. So they end up going to the same high school, which ends up them meeting up in the real world and playing in the real world, but also playing in their dream world. So if Huninkai knew what everybody looked like from their dream world and was actively keeping tabs on them throughout them aging up and knew that they were all going to the same high school, why didn't he say something? Okay, now let's take this scenario to you. Imagine what you were dreaming of when you were 5 or 6 years old, and now imagine you go to a new high school and then a random person comes up to you and they're like, hey, remember you used to dream about rainbows and unicorns and fluffy elephants? I was there too. We're besties. Remember we made a promise on a star? We should hang out. How soon are you calling the cops? You know, like you would raise your hand and be like, teacher, I need to excuse myself, and you'd be stressed. You would think that this man is crazy. So I think that's the reason why he didn't reach out to any of the boys in the real world to be like, hey, this is what's going on. But also I think the reason why he didn't reach out to the boys in the dream world before this time is if they were willing to forget the Magic Island and who they were playing with, I imagine that again, they're not going to take Dream him seriously. Which leads me to my last point on why this makes sense for me and the lore and everything that I'm talking about is because I feel like it's easier to convince people that this is real and this is happening when there's more of you. Because like, okay, go back to that scenario where I say that a random person came up to you and told you about your dreams when you were 6 years old. You think that that person's crazy. But imagine if 2 people did it. 2 people is like, maybe they're onto something. Maybe when I go to sleep, maybe I will check out Magic Island like they said. Just for shits and giggles. Okay? And I think that's what happened here. Okay? I also love that I ended up shifting these 2 here and these 2 over here. Because when we get to it, that actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So with that being said, I think I addressed everything. And remember, Kat is still lurking. And at this point, I would like to address the fandom for Napa Star, and I will address the fandom again when I do the song video. There is one cat, and I so wanted there to be a separate cat. I wanted there to be 2 animals so bad, but that is not what happened. There's one cat, and there's one Huninkai. I think that the shadow in the back is either the star, which doesn't make sense because at the time it was napping, so it really wouldn't be keeping tabs on them like that. Though the star is always still visible, even if it's napping when you're in a different island. That would be important in part 3. But I think it was Huninkai just watching because the shadow in the background that was watching was not in danger because it was watching behind the scenes and Yeonjun didn't really notice or care or think it was a threat. But Yeonjun was scared of the cat. So I think that this was just sort of a red herring, or the cat in the background was a red herring, and really it was Yeonjun. Really it was Huninkai. So with that, I think I addressed all of the things that I had left open as plot holes and said I'll get back to. And with that, I'm going to change this wall and we're going to get into part 2. Okay, this is part 2, and as you can see, there's a little bit of adjustments. I removed the dream islands because at this point, I think I made my point with each member having their own individual dream island, but also them having their dream islands won't come back into importance until part 3. Also, lighting changed a little bit because one, finally the planes decided that they were going to wherever they wanted to go, and two, it is currently like nighttime, and I wanted to keep talking and not wait until tomorrow because, again, I just want to get all this off my chest. For those that are still here, thank you for staying. For those that skipped all the previous parts and just jumped into this, what are you doing? Girly, go back. A lot of the stuff that I'm going to say won't make sense if you haven't seen the other parts before getting to here. But this is landscape now. I know you can't really see it, which sucks because I think I did a good job drawing stuff. Maybe I'll like take pictures or something if you guys want to see what it actually looks like later. Anyways, this is the train station, okay? And I will be explaining the train station, but also look at this corner over here. This is real world things, and I'm gonna be like mentioning real world things throughout part 2. But I just want you to know that's what these two things are. This one's a real world house. If you have seen Can't You See Me? Can't You See Me? Like that this is the house. And the fun thing about Can't You See Me and also Cat and Dog, yeah, I have these songs memorized and the music videos memorized for now. Do you see how deep the rabbit hole you get when you get involved with these stories? Anyway, this is the infamous house for both Cat and Dog and Can't You See Me. Though know that the music videos like to play this little game of, are we in dream world or are we in reality? And sometimes the answer is yes for both. So that is this iconic house. I tried to do my best to see it, and you can't really see it too much, but just know I did my best. But also this is real world school, which also fluctuates from being real world or not, a la 9 3/4, run away, like that song, run away, yeah. Also in Dream World, sorry to burst your bubble, make sure you watch that video about me breaking down the songs. Maybe I'll also record that today. Who knows? I have a 9-to-5 job that I actually work as well, so it's funny that I have enough time to do this as well. Anyways, and we still have our star, aka I Promise. It is shining bright. It is still alive. It is still thriving in this capitalistic world, and we still have our boys. I actually moved them. No, I'm gonna move you over here while I'm talking. Just because you're gonna see why I divided the boys up like this, to prove my thematic point. But there's a reason why they're divided like this, and why Bumgu, this is Bumgu in the back, at the bottom, he's in the middle. So yeah, before I start part 2, let me explain the train station. Boop boop. Okay, so now that the boys met back up at Magic Island, and they are enjoying and spending their time together, let me explain how they ended up at Magic Island, or how they get there. Aside from Hyun and Kai, who could just fly there, which in Magic Island, the music video, you're gonna see him on the train station. I think that's more of a formality to be with the gang. And honestly, if I was abandoned for years at a Magic Island when I was told by the rest of my friends that they'll be back and they never came back, I would honestly make sure that I was on that train too, to make sure that they were actually on that train. But the train, okay? What happens is when you honk shoe, go to sleep, okay, and you are taken to your dream island, because you always go to your dream island first. Now, this is a rule that I'm just implementing for myself to make me feel better about the storyline, because it doesn't make sense to just spawn here, because it won't be the point of the train station. So anyways, they show up in their dream island. Now, at your dream island, you could decide to stay at your dream island, and you can mix and match and change your individual island to whatever you want it to be for the night. Or you could decide to hop on a train and travel to other people's dream islands or other dream island worlds that aren't occupied by people, but probably occupied by different entities, such as the star and such as the cat. We'll get to that later in this part 2. So the train station is very integral, because the train station, you'll hop on the train, and then when you're on the train, now we're getting into rules, when you're on the train in this dream world, right, going to another dream island, when you get to the stop that you would like to hop off on, there's like a little warning window that's like, approaching Magic Island, right? You're going to close your eyes. You need to keep your eyes closed until the train stops, okay? If you open your eyes, that you're breaking a rule. You're probably going to see some things that you don't want to see, bestie. It's for your own good. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is, even though the boys have a lot of power and control in this dream world, they need to abide by the rules, and there is a time limit on how long they could be in dream world. Okay, this is called Blue Hour. You should listen to the song. It's amazing. But this Blue Hour is essentially saying, hey, time is gonna stop in dream world, and this is like your Blue Hour time, and you have an hour in this time frame to have fun. Really, I don't think it's an hour. I just think that it's a catchy hook. But just know that they have a certain amount of time to be in the dream island that they're in before they have to get back on the station to get back to their own individual islands to wake up from. Because if they are not on said train, then they're not only breaking a rule, but they can't get back to their dream island. If they're not back at their dream island, then they're not waking up in their bed in reality. That makes sense? Think of it like if you're a floating entity and you're not back in your body by a certain amount of time, you and that body have separated and you have to figure out a way to get back. That doesn't mean that the body doesn't exist, and that doesn't mean if they break the rules in that regard and they're not back in their dream world or their dream island by the time the train gets there, and if they're not at the train at the time they're supposed to get to their island, that their islands are destroyed like Yeonjun's. It just means that they're not there. That's really important, and I'll address that in part 2 and part 3, but just know that as well. Like, Yeonjun royally messed up, okay, by setting fire to his world, and the others haven't done that. So yeah, he's the only one without an official dream island. And like I said in part 1, Hyun and Kai still has an island. It's just space names, but he at least also has something to go back to. Yeonjun doesn't at this point. Magic Island is all he has. Now, with that being said, this is gonna be a little bit confusing, and I hope it's not. But even though Yeonjun's island is on fire, and I did that demonstration of like throwing the paper away to symbolize that it does not exist, it's still there, but just rubble. I would like to imagine whenever he sleeps, he just goes to a either black island that does not exist, or he is just on rubble. And this is seen in Eternally. This is seen in Eternally when they all go back to their own dream worlds and they have their own visions and things going on, and they're like giving very much a spooky vibes. But he's on rubble. I personally, my headcanon is whenever he goes to sleep, he's either outside of a burning door, which makes sense in 9 3/4 as well. Sorry, again, I know that I said I wasn't going to mention songs like that, but again, who's going to stop me? Me. In other references, I think that he's either standing in front of a burning door that is supposed to symbolize his world that he can't get back to anymore, or when he does go to sleep, he's just in a destroyed world, and it's like, he can't manipulate it, he can't do anything with it. And then he just walks over to the train station and takes the same train as the other guys to get to Magic Island. So yeah, that is the significance of the train station. As far as I know, again, unless you're Hyun and Kai, that is the only way for you to get to Magic Island and also get back to your own respective island. So that's pretty integral, and in part 3, the train station will be even more important. And yeah, real world is real world things, and real world is real world things for school and house. And I might reference house and school as a dream world thing, but just know that, like, you know, if you like dream, if you like meet someone in the street randomly, even if you don't talk to them, they'll somehow appear in your dream. Just imagine that as the house and the school, where like you go to your house or you go to school and then like you randomly have a school dream or a house dream, but that doesn't mean that that's the real thing. That's essentially what happens. Yeah, I think I addressed everything. And remember, Catty Boy over here is still lurking and having a grand old time and is sort of biding his time, waiting to strike again. And with that being said, let us officially get into part 2 of the story. Okay, now let's talk about part 2. I am super excited for part 2. Part 2 and part 3 are probably my favorite. Maybe part 3. Maybe part 3, because that's gonna signify sort of the wrap up in it. Okay, so with this one, I'm gonna look at my script a little bit more and not fly off the handles as much as I did with part 1, but you could also tell how much I've actually memorized all of this and how much I have it just deep-seated in my head. And again, I'm going to try to refrain from mentioning the songs, because again, I keep referencing that's going to be a separate video, and I promise it's going to be a separate video. But I can't help it. They're such good, they're such bops, and then I just visualize it in my head, the videos. But anyway, okay, so this is part 2. After reuniting in the dream world, at Magical Island, they are having a grand old time. And remember when I mentioned that Yeonjun has the ability to change the world that he is on, even if it is not his magical island, he could change it to any island that he wants to. Yeah, so he's essentially doing that for here. So instead of it being carnival vibes, it's giving more like teenager street vibes, you know, hanging out, maybe going to like a corner store, things of that nature. And that'll be important a little bit later, I'll mention. But just know that they're hanging out in their magical island, but also they're hanging out in the real world, mainly in school. And one thing that they like to do in the real world is like get together and make videos together. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, them being TXT and them being a boy group. And also practice dances and stuff on trying to be a boy group, a K-pop group in the real world. So that's mainly what they're doing here in school. And if you see them at the house, they're just hanging out and having fun. Again, making videos a la Blue Orange Jade. I know that's crazy. I'm good at, like, when I get to the music videos, I promise you girlies, when I get to the music videos, it's gonna be lit. It's gonna be lit. So yeah, that's mainly what they're doing in the real world, just having a grand old time. And then in a magical world or a magical island, they're having fun. But eventually, especially with this cat over here, just lurking around and whispering in their ears and like giving them doubts about whether or not they want to stay in reality and real world, they started to realize, like, dang, you know, I really love Magical Island. And sometimes I just don't feel like waking up to reality because, you know, each one of them has their own troubles and trials and tribulations that they're not really the most happy with. Now, with this is dealing with EXO, 0x1 love song, I Know I Love You. They all have their own trials in the real world. Now, I don't know how much time passes before it hits them, but it's there. For example, Hyun Kai is seen not liking his job, his part-time job that he has. Yeonjun, his thing is that it looks like he doesn't have a lot of money and he wants a lot of money. It also alludes that maybe he's not in a house and he's living in a van, but I think that's just symbolism to him not having his own dream island anymore and him having to be at Magical Island. And so imagine now he's basically in Hyun Kai's footsteps from when they were kids, because now if the gang decides not to go to Magical Island anymore, he's just going to be at another deserted black void. So he's really relying on the boys keeping their promise, because otherwise he doesn't really have anywhere else to go. That's going to also be very important later on when it comes to decision making. Again, Hyun Kai's thing is he's working at a corner store, but also, again, remember, he's a little bit traumatized being from them forgetting their promise before, and he's sort of on the same boat as Yeonjun as well, where it's like, dang, if they forget the promise again, I will be by myself. And, you know, even though I have my own dream island, I can't take Yeonjun to my dream island for some reason. I don't know what the reason is, but maybe he just doesn't want him to wreck his island after seeing what Yeonjun did to his own island. I don't know, that's just me, personally. Not my tea, not my shade. Bumgyu, his thing is, well, actually, wait. Bumgyu will be last in this dichotomy. Terry, his thing is that he doesn't really want to get older. He's having a little bit of a crisis with that. You see him, like, looking longfully out in a train, and I think that just means that he doesn't, to me, it signifies, like, he likes the dream world, but doesn't know, but also, you know, longs for something different, maybe. I don't know. His life maybe might be average and he wants something new. But that would be his motivation if he wanted to stay in Magical Island. And then Subin's, I don't think we actually see a particular reason for Subin, but again, probably the lines of him growing older. Bumgyu's, his biggest thing is he really wants to be like online famous, and he has his own social media where he posts him doing wacky cookie crazy things, and his father barges in during the live and embarrasses him and makes him feel like he's not going to be special and not going to be anything when he gets older. So that was a big blow up there. I think that's enough motivation for him not to want to be in reality anymore when your own father doesn't believe in you. That's real wild. So they all sort of slowly start getting their motivations one way or another on not liking reality, because reality again is not the it girl. But this makes this extra juicy in terms of group dynamic, and we'll get to that later based off of who decides what. Because Yeonjun already knows what it's like to break a rule and lose his island, and he also knows that the cat is lurking, because obviously he has to know. And I think that at this point he's realizing that his crown has something to do with the cat, because the cat keeps following him specifically alongside the group, but him specifically, since he was the one to basically summon him and let him out where he was caged. So he knows that if they were to break a rule, that they could always make a deal with the cat and they could stay in their dream world forever, which honestly is looking more and more viable, specifically for Yeonjun, because remember again, he's relying on them remembering the promise, and they've already shown before that they could forget it very easily, and they also have a safety net, and he doesn't, which is where Trust Fund Baby comes in. Yeah, there's that, and also they have the same thing. And as they're progressing, I would like to imagine Yeonjun is the one to bring it up first, mainly because one, he's done it before, but two, in a lot of the songs, he's usually the aggressor, or he's usually one to start stuff and drama in the group, to push them to want to stay in Magical Island. So anyway, he's like, hey guys, I don't know that you probably don't like real world and it's crusty and dusty, and maybe we want to just chill in the Magical Island for longer, and I know a way. We just need to break rules, and like we could be good boy gone bad. We could break some rules, and we could just stay in the dream world forever, and then whenever we want to go back, then we could go back. I imagine he had to add that in, because if you're told like once you make a decision that's your decision forever, that's probably a harder decision to make, especially when you're kids. But yeah, he proposes this idea. Now, I have it split up like this because this is sort of how that idea was taken. So Yeonjun and Hyun and Kai, they're on the same boat. They're like, yeah, we could chill in a magical island forever. That sounds lit. Real world is a drag, and we want to be a magical island. And Subin and Tay, they're like, no. As much as real life sucks for both of us, probably not as much as these three over here, but it still sucks for them in some way, shape, or form. We like waking up. We like seeing the morning sun, and we like the duality of both. And the fact that you're saying that we might get trapped in this dream world forever, it doesn't sit right. Also, Tay has even more reason to not want to go through with this plan, because he's starting to get visions about all the horrors and like all of the tragedies that might happen if they get stuck in Magical Island. And what that may entail by making the deal with the cat. So he's also like big no-no. So it's all left to Bumgyu. I don't know why the group decided to leave the biggest decision on whether they don't exist in real life or not to Bumgyu. But they do, because it's a 2-2 split right now. So Bumgyu really thinks back, and he sits back and he's like, dang, I agree with them. Life sucks, but it doesn't suck that much. But also, I don't want to feel like I'm being left behind. And I feel like them trying to escape in the dream world, they might go on that side. And I don't want to be the only one not a magical island anymore if I don't say yes. So he decides, come on, girly pop. He decides to side with Team Cat, okay? And so since he decided to team up with Team Cat, Subin also decides to follow suit, because he's like, well, I mean, majority rules, right? So now they're all on Team Cat. And that's really bad, besties, because remember what happened when Yeonjun got rid of his world? We don't want to destroy Magic Island, because Magic Island is Promise, and Promise is us as Moa. Surprise, it's us. We're the Moas, we're the Promise. So that's not going to be good. So now it's a 4v1, And what they decide to do now that they've all established that this is what they're going to do now, and they're just gonna not only break the promise, not only listen to this guy who's a little bit shady, but also he didn't tell them about what happened to his previous world, they're gonna follow through. Now, they all decide that they're each individually going to break a rule to make this possible. Yeonjun brings in his handy dandy matchbox. He finds a way. Where there's a will, there's a way, there's fire. Hyunin Kai decides to snag a bug, a dragonfly. I don't know to what significance that means. I think it's probably him trying to bring something in real life that wasn't supposed to be there by grabbing that said dragonfly. And Subin, he decides to ignore the train. It seems like he had the role of hearing when the train was getting there and also have the alarm to know when they're supposed to get to the train station. So he actively ignores that, breaking the rule as well. And Bumgyu, he brings in fireworks, okay? He brings in fireworks, and Yeonjun uses said fire from his matchbox to light the fireworks, and they're all playing. It's a great time. It's beautiful visuals. You should definitely watch Magic Island. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. And while all of this is going down, before they all enact this plan, they each sort of have their own vision, either relating to the situation that they're in or in the future. Tay over here, he uses his vision to take a little sneak peek into what Yeonjun's doing, and he realizes that Yeonjun's world is dead. And he's like, that's a little suspicious. That's a little weird. That definitely adds to my, I don't want to go through this plan. So that's why he's still over here, even after everyone else decided that's what we're going to do. So yeah, now fast forward, they all broke the rules, okay? All of them but Tay. And so as this is all going on, Yeonjun is actively looking to see when the cat is going to make his grand appearance, because again, he knows that he's been following him around, but he hasn't been like out and about. Like he's been doing like whispers here and there. He's been planting the seed, but he's waiting for him to come out so he can make a deal. Before the cat could come out though, Tay decides to take action and throws a lantern onto the island to try to prevent the cat from getting close to them to make the deal. And they start running, but then realize, oh crap-a-laps, we don't know what we're doing or where we're going. This is one of those instances where Tay had a good idea but really bad execution, because bestie, why would you set it on fire? I know that he couldn't see how Yeonjun's world got destroyed and why he's visually not alive, but what did you expect the fire would do? Like, not water? If this is a magical island. Also, going back to the magical island landscape, remember when I said that it's usually like either carnival vibes or carousel? I find it really crazy that when they're enacting their plan, which also solidifies to me that the crown, Yeonjun, has the ability to change the island that he is on, that instead of it being like this fun carnival, it is going back to the same forest vibe that he had when his dream world almost burned down. So that's just a little Easter egg for you there. Yeah, so now this world is burning. You know, we're back. And the cat comes out, and even through Tay's best interest to keep the boys from seeing the cat ends up running them over with the train that they were supposed to be on the tracks, and they end up making a deal with the cat, whether they wanted to or not, because there was no place to escape for at this time. And remember, even though the star is in full effect and could have saved them, they set it on fire. So I imagine that either the power got weakened or something happened, and now the star is taking a nap. But before they get hit with the train, the star whispers something in their ear and lets them know the instructions on how to get back home. But honestly, if you were hit by a train, and if you saw that scene in Magical Island, you're probably not going to remember. Aside from one member actually remembers the promise, yet again, and the steps to enact the promise. And I'm not going to tell you who. I'm going to let you decide. I'm going to let you guess. I really am. And I'm not going to give you any clues or hints until later on, but just know that one member out of the 5 of them remember the promise that is being told as they're getting hit by a train. And you could comment down below who you think that is. So yeah, now the cat has won. They can't return to their dream world anymore, i.e. now, or their dream islands anymore. They are now not a magical island anymore. I could take you down. The star is asleep. It is honk chewing it up. Now where we are is we are at Cat Island. Okay, they are washed up ashore, and at first the Cat Island is a beachy vibe theme, and it's giving Stowaway, it's giving Castaway, it's giving Lost. And they are having a grand sugar rush ride. Don't worry, I'm getting the thing now. I'm just putting the tape up. But anyway, they're having a nice sugar rush ride. They're enjoying themselves. Tay-Tay is not happy at all, by the way. That's why he's still over here. He's actively being dragged into this, and he doesn't really like it, but also he doesn't have a choice at this point because he was also hit by that train, and he is also the only one right now trying to figure out a way to escape. But the rest are enjoying themselves until eventually it's not it, besties. It's getting boring. And one thing that the group starts to notice while they're like falling into this world, because remember, they're not flying, they're falling. Human Kite's the only one that could fly. Yeah, you see it. You see the visuals. This is Cat Island. Okay, it's dark, it's spooky, it's scary. One thing that they notice as well, that they're not flying to islands, okay? They think that they're traversing islands without needing a train station. The cat made them think that like, oh, yeah, like we're traveling to different islands, but really it's the cat changing the island to whatever theme that he wants the boys to go through. Think of them like dolls at this point, and he's playing with them like a playbox. So they're eventually realizing like, oh, you tricked us. We're not flying anywhere. We're still stuck at the same island. And we don't know where that island is relative to where the star is and where Dreamworld is, or Magic Island is. So we're just falling. We are falling. We are falling. We are falling. A lot of songs have falling and Let Me Go and Run. Just also putting that in there. But Tay-Tay right now is still the only one actively trying to figure out what's going on until these guys over here are like, yeah, we're starting to not like this vibe anymore. We want to get back to whatever was our normal. But they've been going through the cycle for so long that they can't remember what their normal was until eventually one of them, or either all of them at the same time, starts to remember like a little glimpse of something, like a star. Now at this point they look up, as you can see, and they see the star. It's a little bit subdued here. I know you can't probably see it, but they see the star. It's still taking a nap, but the star is still very much so visible. So they're like, okay, star, that reminds me of something. Let's dig deeper. So now they're using the island, that Cat Island that they're on, to try to regain their memories, because they realize that like their memories are dug deep somewhere, while also still trying to find a way to get back to Magic Island. And they realize they can't go through the same door that they went through because it is on fire, but also they don't know their way back home, because again, memory is very important here. So eventually one of them gets a clue, and they start to remember more and more about what they should do and the significance of the star and Magic Island. Also, at one point, they start getting mad at each other and blaming each other on why they got into the situation. Also, remember, Yeonjun is like biggest like problem, because not only has he done this before and he knew the consequences, but he also sort of like influenced and dragged them to go through this again. But remember, our Crowny boy has been through a lot, okay? And I could understand to a degree why he was a little bit worried that he wouldn't have his friends anymore. And he, again, did not have a failsafe. So I'm not saying that justifies his actions. I'm just saying that sort of adds more fuel to the fire on why he decided to make the members do what they did. And also remember, the cat is very good at influencing people, and he gave up half of his crown and his power to the cat to be able to have power over him, without knowing that was what his crown was supposed to be there for in the first place. Promise / Star should probably give them like a handbook on what their powers do and mean. Anywho's, as they're traversing and as they're traveling and as they're trying to regain their memories, eventually they remember the promise And that is the first step, okay? They remember the star, they see the star, but they don't know what the star represents. But eventually they all remember the promise. And by them remembering the promise, it wakes up the star a little bit. Enough to send a message to 2 members specifically, but eventually we'll send the rest to the rest of them. The star specifically sends a message to Yeonjun and to Subin. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. It makes sense that the star would like hit Yeonjun with the memory of what's going on. That makes sense, but why Subin at the same time out of everyone else? Why not Tae Tae, who actively has been trying to escape and also has been getting visions about what's going on? Why not Hyun Kai, who could fly his way out? Why not have the star give him extra wingy power to get everyone away and bring him back to Magic Island? Or why not Bumgyu, who could heal and hurt? Why not him for whatever third reason why? And to this I say this is where his ears become really vital into what's going on. Because another thing to note is, 1, to wake up the star. Now we're getting into how to wake up the star. To wake up the star, you need to, 1, remember what the star represents, which is the promise. 2, you need to remember the song and hear the song. Remember and or hear the song. And so the reason why Subin gets his full memories regained at the same time as Yeonjun, even though Yeonjun is a little bit more important in the story and lore than everyone else right now, is he actively can hear the song. So when Yeonjun remembers the promise and what it's for and wakes up the star a little bit, the star sings the song that they're supposed to remember, and then Subin hears that and his gears click, and then now he's up to speed. Okay, so now he realizes what Yeonjun did, he realizes what the cat's for, and like that back and forth. And at this point, Yeonjun realizes at the same time as Subin, and they start scrapping. They start getting into a brawl, okay? And Subin's like, listen, I know how much you like the cat. I know that you're dealing with a lot, but we need to go home. And I know that you are the way that we get home, because if you could control the cat, then we could actually leave. Because another thing is the cat has been noticing that they've been trying to figure out a way to go home, and has been making the worlds increasingly more difficult and complicated, to the point where they're like literally running through the streets of New York trying to find out what's going on. And the worlds just get more and more massive. Like, it started off with the beach, and now we're just in a futuristic world, essentially. So they have a little squabble because Yeonjun is still trying to hold on to the fact that we could just stay in the magical island, the cat world forever. And Subin is like, you need a reality check. We need to live our lives. Like, we're not growing old. We're not making mistakes. We're not getting to chase our dreams, because this isn't our dreams. This is the cat's dreams. And so eventually Yeonjun's like, okay, fine. And he goes to talk with the cat, and they have a little scribble scrabble. But eventually Yeonjun regains his crown back and has power over the cat and has tamed the cat. So now the cat is back to being his pet. Not before dropping an absolute banger, by the way, which is Back for More. And he's like, listen, I will listen to you, but just know that you're gonna want to come back to me. And Yeonjun's like, no. After Subin talks some sense into me, I actually do like the real world now. Anywho's, he now has tamed the cat, and then both of them let everyone else know, yeah, this is what's going on, and this was the promise. Now, let's get back to what I talked about before, where I said, hey, there was actually one person that remembered the promise throughout all of this again. Now's your time to say your answer before I reveal it to you. 3, 2, 1. It was Hyun Kai. Yeah, it was Hyun Kai again. He's never forgot the promise. I don't know why it's so easy for everyone else to forget but him. But the reason why I say that is because, 1, in the song Chasing That Feeling, he's the only one not chasing the feeling. Also, when it came to the visuals from the concert, he was the last one to get the promise, but also it didn't feel like, oh, he remembered. It felt like, oh, he's convinced now. Like, throughout this entire journey that they were on, it just felt like Hyun and Kai was... The visuals make you think that they are trying to protect Hyun and Kai by keeping him out of everything because he's the baby and he's the pure one of the group. But I don't think that's what it's actually symbolizing. I think it's symbolizing the 4 of them not letting Hyun and Kai know because he doesn't need to know, because he already knows. And so really, instead of it being like the 4 of them not telling Hyun and Kai, it's really Hyun and Kai acting stupid and going along with what the four are doing because he actually knows what's going on. Which, again, really crazy. All of them need therapy. Maybe not Tay Tay, because he had some logic from beginning to end, but also he was not the smartest camper on how to get that done. So anyways, now Cat is tamed, okay? And the four of them now not only remember what the promise was about, but also remember their magic island, remember when they were friends, remember when they were having a fun time, remember when they were living in reality and living in the dream world. And now they need to find a way to get back to their magic island. And with that, that is the end of part 2. Part 3 will be the wrap up, how they end up getting back to the island and what happens after in their happily ever after. But now to address some things, back to Hyun and Kai knowing the promise again. It doesn't make sense to me that he's able to remember a promise when he's a kid and then magically when he gets hit by a train, he forgets. Also, he was also really gung-ho to go with Yeonjun in the beginning about the magic island thing. So again, I think his wings either helps preserve his memories and that's an extra power that's not addressed, or he just knows, and again, just following along. Because remember, again, Winky Boy was abandoned, and I think the main motivation for him on going along with the Cat and Yeonjun is that he doesn't want to be left alone again, and I feel that. The other members don't really get that feeling, which also leads me into thinking that that's why he just goes along with what everybody says and does, because again, he wants to be liked. Giving very much so people pleaser. Why did Tay Tay not know the right way to do whatever? I sort of addressed that, but again, I think in his vision, he saw fire and then thought, oh, fire will prevent what happened. And also he probably didn't have water, even though there was, he threw the fire into the water. Follow me, camera. Bumgyu, why would he choose to stay in Dreamworld? Again, like I said, his father doing that, probably not the bestest of moves, and him being embarrassed, and like, this is still high school boys, okay? Like, they haven't grown into like full-fledged adults yet. So like, when you're a teenager, you care more about what your peers say about you more than you care about what you are and who you are, right? So I feel like he was really influenced by that, but also the fact that he was embarrassed by his father did not help. Now, Subin not having more of a backbone, and telling the boys no and still staying with Tay Tay, because Tay Tay stood on business, okay? Even after all the boys were like, this is what we're gonna do, he's like, no, I still don't think this is right, and rightfully so. I think Subin did that because there was a moment where he was gonna tell the boys, like, hey, I had this weird vision and things aren't click-clacking. But I guess he just thought different of it. Again, when you're a teenager, you care more about what your peers think of you than about yourself. So that is also another big point. And the final point that I would like to address, which is one of the biggest of this entire story that I'm talking about right now, is why does the cat care? Really great question, bestie. I think it's because ever since they were kids, the cats always existed, which is why I chose my phrasing earlier in part 1 where I said that Yeonjun let the cat out. I think that the cat's always been in some sort of cage or imprisonment because the star knows what the cat's capable of. And I think that's why the star also gave Yeonjun the power of controlling the cat, but just did not give him the decency to let him know that that's what his crowns were for. But I think the cat's main thing is that he, the cat just wants to play forever. Like, the cat gets super sad when they're gone, but gets really happy when they're there, and he genuinely just wanted to stay in their presence and have them play forever because he feels lonely when they're gone. And also, I think the cat also resides at Magical Island, or tends to hang out the most at Magical Island, because it also gives the vibe of, like, I don't want you to abandon me. Like, this whole story is all about abandonment, coming of age, staying true to yourself, and about learning that the joys of life is knowing that you have good days and bad days. Because if every day's a good day, then what's the point of living, And I love that for them, and I love that that's what that represents. Also, I know that was the final thing, but one other thing that also sticks out like a sore thumb is, okay, well, Tiana, you said when the star's napping, they still have their powers. So why didn't any of them use their powers before remembering the star? And to that I say, I believe the cat took away their powers, especially since the star was napping. But then when the star started to wake up a little bit, the star was able to help regain their powers back to a degree to help them out. Does that make sense? But the star is still sleeping. So, like, I think that because the star is still technically sleeping, it's not able to give Huening-Kai the power to save all of them. If anything, Huening-Kai at this point only has power to save one of them. Just like how Yeonjun gets his half of his crown back, that's only because he got a little bit of power from here. But he doesn't have the power to change the cat island into the train station, right? So that is that. I think I addressed everything in this part 2. Part 3 might be a little bit shorter just because that's going to be explaining how they escape, what happens at the end, and final thoughts and wrap up. So I will see you in part 3. Okay, now welcome to part 3. Going to be the final part, but before I address the final part, I do want to say a quick thank you for making it this far in the video. I know it is really long, and I know that I'm gonna have a fun time editing this. Really, it's not gonna have fancy editing, I imagine, because one, I am not the best editor. I've edited videos before, and I don't want to make this too crazy because I genuinely want you to understand how much this has changed my trajectory in life. Like, coming back from after coming back from the concert last year, not only did I have so many of their songs on full blast, but it really put me down in this deep dive about the lore and gave me something to do, and I was busy and bored. But also, like, Sugar Rush Ride was one of the first songs that I would play and sing around my boyfriend at the time, who we've now been together for over a year, which is crazy to me. And the duality of that too is, like, last year I was way in the back seated, I was late, I missed like the first 3 or 4 songs because New York traffic was crazy, and I didn't know who these boys were. And now, a year later, not only am I doing this crazy deep dive video about the lore and what I think is what's going on, but I was able to attend the concert as VIP1 with my boyfriend there, and we were both able to enjoy an experience. And not to flex on you girlies, but not only did I get 2 signed albums, but they also signed my boyfriend's phone case as well. 4 out of the 5 members of them did. And also Yeonjun sang to me. So honestly, if no one really watches this, at the end of the day, I still win because I got Yeonjun to sing to me. Anyways, I say that all to say, TXT means a lot in my life. Their music means a lot to me, and I hope at the very least whoever is watching this not only enjoys my crazy commentary and chaoticness about what's going on, but I hope that you also fall in love to how much went into making the story, making the visuals, how much the boys put into not only their music videos and the story and lore, but also their performances and their vocals are amazing. And this is hashtag not sponsored, but could be. So I just want to take a second to say thank you for listening to my crazy rambles, but also I hope that this not only sparked a joy for you to watch and go back and look at all the music videos and listen to all the songs and think of your own theories if you think that I'm wrong and you could do better. But also for those that may already be a part of the fandom, I hope this gives you a little bit more of appreciation into how TXT could really manifest things into your life and change things for the better. But yeah, enough about the sappiness and giving these boys way too much credit, because again, I'm still a little bit mad at Subin right here and Bumgyu right here. I'm really mad at everyone, especially Yeonjun. Honestly, I'm not even mad, I'm just disappointed. Really the only person in this wall right now that I'm not the most mad at is the cat, because honestly that's what he was going to do anyway. That's just sort of his shtick. So let's get into part 3, but also explaining what happens in part 3 first. So if you can't see this here, this is train tracks, and if you could tell that it's in a star motion, I did that on purpose. You're welcome. Star is still napping, but it's like half napping. So at this point they got like half of the requirements done, so the star is like somewhat up. Like, imagine when like your parents wake you up in the morning and like you're half up but you're able to go back to sleep if you have enough time to go back to sleep, but you're able to respond. It's like one of those in-betweens. Cat has been formally tamed by Yeonjun. They are able to get out of said island, but before doing so, they all need to agree on what the plan is before leaving said magic island. And by magic island, I mean Cat Island. Excuse me, this is actually Cat Island. So now I'm gonna go through in order what the steps are to wake up the star in the off chance that the star is asleep. And you would think that it would be as simple as what it was last time, but it's not, because we like complication here. So the first step is to remember what the promise was, okay? Not only to remember what the promise is, but also what it stands for in the star, right? That was first one. They're all up to speed on that. The second thing is to remember the song. You're going to need to sing the song for part 3 and 4, right? So you're going to need to remember what the song is. And also a fun little treat is the song also tells you how to get back home, which is Magical Island, right? And how to wake up the star fully. Now, the third thing is that they're all going to need to go back to their respective islands and then travel back on the tracks, because the train is no longer there. Remember, they broke the rules, so now the train isn't there anymore. So they're all gonna need to individually go to their own dream islands, and then walk the track back to meet up at the center, which would be the train station, right? It's giving very much a Hades Town. It's giving do you wait for me, I'm coming. All of my musical girlies will get that reference. So this starts another convo between the boys of whether or not they really truly want to leave this cat island, and whether or truly they trust each other to actually go through this plan, and for each of them to individually meet up at the tracks. Because remember, again, at this point, they've had some ups and downs as a friend group, and you know, after everything they went through, especially what Yeonjun put them through, if we're gonna call a spade, they're not really the most trusting. But also, again, they're conflicted because on the one hand, being in the dream world sucks after a while because it starts growing stale. But on the other end, it's like, do I really want to go back to a world where I could potentially be harmed and there's a whole bunch of bad going on? And do I really want to grow up? It's giving Peter Pan. It's giving Neverland. Farewell, Neverland. Again, check out that music video or music song breakdown later. So they eventually like have their own little mini arc of self-discovery and realizing that it's better to live a life of ups and downs than it is to live a life of dreams. And they all are like, okay, yep, that's what we're gonna do. We're all gonna go back to our individual island. Yeonjun tells the cat like, yo, you're gonna let us go. We're gonna go back to our individual dream islands. And we're gonna walk the tracks back all the way to the end point, which should take us to the train station, right? So, I know what you girlies are thinking. Okay, Tiana, it makes sense for these two and these two to be able to do that, but what about Yeonjun? Didn't you say that his island is gone? And to that I say yes. But remember when I said that the cat is also tame now? I think now that since Yeonjun has tamed the cat is able to sort of revert back his special island, or has enough power to. Because also remember, the crown has the power to change whatever the island's format is from the ground or wherever he's at. So I think at this point, either he returns back to rubble or just the flaming door and then he just walks back from there, or he actually uses the cat to help restore his island, which I think the cat's able to do. Or the third thing, which would actually be really dope, is now Yeonjun's island is the cat island, which would actually make a lot more sense now I'm thinking about it. Maybe I'm gonna stick with the Yeonjun's island is now the cat's island, because I actually like that thought and idea, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So anyway, all of the members now at this point return back to their own respective dream island. I would put the papers back up, but honestly, it's just a short explanation for that. There's no need to put it up there. And they meet back at the train tracks, okay? They all walk their own individual path, and they all decided to meet at the train tracks. Once there, they call on the star's name, which is the final and last step. So they either sing the song to call the name, or they just call on the name, which is Moa, which is us. And the star finally wakes up and is like, oh, crap-a-laps, what happened while I was asleep? Let me just restore Magical Island real fast. So now Cat Island is gone. Magical Island's back in. We're changing seasons. And we're all happy. We're all having a grand old time. And now they're back at Magical Island, and the star is not napping anymore. Girly, it is up, it is awake. The hills are alive, okay? And as they're all happily celebrating, they're having a great old time. You know, they finally got out of their hellscape. They now know that they're able to return back to reality. Yeonjun, See, I love my baby boy Yeonjun. Yeonjun is like, now that we got that magical island and everything's fantastic and back to the way it was, I don't really want to get rid of the cat. I know that the cat put us through a lot of things and tortured us and trapped us in like this mix of like magical wonderland but also hellscape, and wouldn't let us leave. But honestly, I actually vibe with the cat and I understand what the cat's going through. The cat is me and I'm the cat. Do you mind if he sticks around? And everyone's like, bestie, did you not learn your lesson? Like, girl, like, what do you mean keep the cat? And so I know I said I wasn't gonna reference music, and I know I've been saying that throughout the video, but at this point, who's gonna stop me but me? That's when it's like, oh, what if I was that puma? Okay, what if any one of us was the cat, and you could put yourself in the cat's shoes on how it feels to be abandoned? Because at this point, Yeonjun and Hyun Kai know sort of like what it's like to be abandoned, but these three really don't get the understanding of what these two really went through and what this cat went through. And so somehow that speech moves these three people, especially Tay. I don't understand how it moved him personally, but they're like, dang, you're right. What if we were that cat? We will want somebody to save us. So you know what, the cat could stay as long as you keep control over him. And we could all just be happily ever after. And after that, to wrap it all up, the boys grow older and they essentially learn to live the duality life of being in reality, but also still enjoying their promise of playing in the magical island and keeping the promise alive. And that, my friends, is the wrap up and where we are at now after Act Promise Tour and after the Minisode 3 Promise. Do I think that there's going to be another album that comes out that basically upheaves everything that I have just said and add more stuff into it? Possibly. What I'm hoping is whatever the next album is, I know that the album in July is the Japanese version, and again, I'm not touching that. But what I hope for this series is that the next album either is the hardened end of this lore and the beginning of some new lore, because they could really do a lot with the boys in this thing. And it's very prevalent with the Japanese version music videos, because I believe that's a separate story. And also Star Seekers, I hear, is fire. And I know I really do need to start it. I just know the synopsis of it, which is sort of similar to this Dreamscape, but it's like has different nuances in it. But yeah, that's what my hope is. And I think that with this ending arc, that this is sort of the end of the back and forth of the Star Promise, but also them growing up, them learning what it's like to be adults. Like, I think this was a really nice, cute coming of age story that tied in a lot of cool, fantastical things. And for those who feel like a little bit empty after like probably an hour-long discussion about the storyline, or wants more insight into things, please make sure you check out my video where I go song by song and talk about the same thing I talked about now, but in more detail, which is also going to be fun. And yeah, now a couple of things that I would like to address just in general as a whole now that we got the story done. I think the train is very ingenious, and this story also coincides with me with the concert and the visuals for said concert, and even the order of it as well. I will also mention that in the song video later on. But I love that each one of them had their own characteristics and agency. And like I said, some characters seem more important than others, but then when you think about the grand scheme of things, it really took all 5 of them to get to the point that where they are. And it's a little bit annoying that the star couldn't be a little bit more helpful. I mean, she did the best that she could. Every time she wakes up and goes to sleep, she sings that song. Apparently, in my headcanon, I think she sings the song. And also, Star sends like ghosties to Subin. Again, I don't know what's with Star and Subin. I guess that's her favorite. Again, I don't know why Tay didn't get the same level of love and care as Yeonjun and Subin in this, but again, Tay actively was trying to help, and at one point in time he sort of just sits back and watches, because I think he understands that there's really nothing that he can do to change the fate right now. It's really up to these guys' hands. But I loved that each character had their own moment to shine in this story. But if we're gonna call a spade, Yeonjun was the main aggressor and the main problem child, and I love that for him because again, he I might be a little bit biased. He might be my bias. You never know. I wish that Yeonjun would have had a bigger moment, or like I wish there was a song. Well, no, there's a lot of songs that sort of breaks down their feelings, but I wish that there's a video that explicitly shows the conflict that Yeonjun has and the breakdown that he has with the gang to explain to them why he's this way. Also, the biggest plot thing that keeps a lot of this together, and the biggest thing that shocked me the most, was that Hyun and Kai remembered the promise this whole time, and he's actually not as dumb and oblivious as he's trying to make it himself out to be. But also, when you look back at the music videos, and if you listen to my story and you like visualize everything based off of the timeline that I gave you, a lot of the stuff that he does makes a lot more sense if you keep in mind that he actually knows what he's doing instead of him being dumb. Because again, how would he have known to save Yeonjun? Why wasn't he chasing that feeling? Why did he want to side with Yeonjun if he was oblivious one? Wouldn't he want to be with Subin? Or wouldn't he be the deciding factor? Or wouldn't he be the deciding factor instead of Bumkyu? Right? There's a couple of things in there. But with that being said, let me know what y'all think if you have made it this far in the video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. And let me know what your thoughts are, if there's any questions or things that I did not mention, or if you come up with your own theories to help support what I've said. And with that being said, do-ba-do, wari-wari. No, I'm not going to do the do-ba-do, wari-wari song. I don't want to be copyrighted. With that being said, I hope y'all enjoy whatever day, night, or time you are in, and I will see you in the next video.